I have some of my very favorite ingredients to make what I call a low-carb cheeseburger casserole. How good does that sound? So I'm gonna start by cutting up 4 pieces of bacon into a skillet. So we just wanna turn our skillet up to medium heat and get this cooked so it's brown and crispy. So I don't really cut things in a technical way. And what I love about cooking is you really don't have to feel intimidated by it or like you have to be a professional. Just cook however makes sense to you. Ever since I was a teenager, I just kind of self-taught, which means that I've never learned any professional knife skills, but it all works out in the end. The food tastes delicious, and so that's what I love about cooking. So you don't have to feel like you have to have it all down. So how I cut an onion is I just trim the ends off, remove the outer layer, and then I just slice it, and then turn it, and slice it again. And you can use either the full onion or half an onion, depending on what you would like. Then we're just gonna continue to cook this bacon just until it gets crispy. All right, so this is looking great. All right, so while this bacon is cooking up, let's talk about low-carb diets. So this is one of the things that I feel pretty passionate about because when I was a teenager, I heard all sorts of different thoughts and theories on eating low carb and low fat, and so I didn't really know the best way at that time to nourish my body. So what I ended up doing was I ended up cutting out bread completely, and then it was, cutting out different food groups from there. So I cut out fruit and vegetables and any kind of really nutritious carbohydrate because I just wanted to, cut carbs altogether. And what that ended up doing was I had no energy at all. I always felt lethargic. And it actually ended up being really harmful for my health. And so I always talk to people, if you want to go low carb, there are some great benefits from eating lower carbohydrates as far as the processed type of carbohydrate. So white bread and white sugar and all of the foods that, really are abundant in our American diet today. So cutting out the carbohydrates that aren't as nutritious for our bodies and replacing them with something that is nutritious is a really great way to go. And this bacon is looking great and crispy, so we're gonna get this off. And I'm gonna pour this onto a plate with a paper towel, just so it can kind of drain off any of that excess grease. So this pan is now hot and ready for us to put our onion in that we chopped. And then we're also gonna add a pound of ground beef or ground turkey, ground chicken, whatever you like. And again, I'm just cooking this on medium heat. Then we can add the ingredient that makes this lower carb, but also kind of replaces the rice so it still feels like it's a hearty comfort food. And that is cauliflower rice. So cauliflower rice, you can actually make your own. You can just buy a whole head of cauliflower, throw it in a food processor, and kind of blend it up until it gets into a rice. But what I have here is so much simpler, frozen cauliflower rice. So this is just from the freezer section. You can microwave it or you can just saute it right in your pan frozen with the beef and the onion. So 1 pack of cauliflower rice or 1 head of cauliflower. We're gonna add that to the pan and then we're gonna kind of mix that up with the beef and the onion. All right, this is starting to look good and smell good. So we're gonna turn the heat up just a little bit so that we can get that beef browned off. And I'm gonna add some seasonings. So I have 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of onion powder, and 1 teaspoon of garlic powder. We're gonna kind of stir this up. So let's talk about some good sources of carbohydrates. Some really good sources of carbohydrates that are nourishing to your body and really are important in order to fuel your body with the proper amount of energy and insulin that's kind of slow and steady releasing throughout your day and throughout your body are fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and some of the starchier carbohydrates that I would say, you might want to think about eating a few less of, but you can definitely incorporate are things like starchy vegetables, like sweet potatoes. You just want to choose those in moderation, and also just think about if anything has color or if it's made from the ground or God-made foods. Those are the types of carbohydrates that will really nourish your body. Versus, like I said, the things that are processed and man-made, like the bleached white flours. Okay, so this is looking great. So now we're gonna turn off the heat, and we're gonna turn this wonderful, delicious meat mixture into a delicious casserole. Okay, so we have our beef mixture in a 9x13 pan that I sprayed with cooking spray. And then we're gonna add the last few ingredients here. We have a half cup of Greek yogurt, and this is just gonna make almost like a creamy casserole base without using those cream of who knows what soups. And then a third cup of Parmesan cheese, 2 eggs, and this is gonna kind of bind everything together when it bakes. 3 tablespoons or so of ketchup, and I just buy ketchup that has really very few added ingredients. You could also use tomato paste, and a tablespoon of mustard. And you can see I didn't really measure those. You can just kind of eyeball it depending on what flavors you would like to bring. But I'm telling you that the ketchup and the mustard really do make it taste like a hamburger casserole. So we're gonna mix this all together till it's well combined. And you can see I'm just doing this right in the baking dish, because why dirty another bowl? And it may not be the prettiest right now, but this is actually one of my most popular dishes on Dashing Dish. Then we have our bacon that we cooked up, and I'm gonna put this over the top. And when it comes to eating low carb, the best thing that I say in everything is balance and moderation is key. So, is it wise to use a lot of protein to replace the carbs or a lot of fat to replace the carbs? Not necessarily, because our bodies were created to have balance when it comes to food and nutrition and everything else, really. So I just always say, think about moderation. So if you're gonna cut carbs out, a great way to kind of add them back in a nutritious way in this dish was through our cauliflower rice. And then we're adding a little bit of protein and of course fat on top, because it's delicious. So we have a half cup of cheese that we added to the top, and now we're gonna cover it with foil. And we're gonna bake it 425 degrees for about 30 minutes. And you can remove the foil in the last 5 minutes just to kind of brown out that cheese, and it's gonna be absolutely delicious.